Hello and welcome to another edition of Adam's Music Box, where today is a sad day because one of my very favorite musicians of all time has died. And I'm talking, of course, about Roy Ayers, a virtuoso, a revolutionary, someone who was beloved for his skill, for his vibe, literally and otherwise, throughout the world. Now, of the many pioneering things that Roy Ayers did, one of them was taking the behemoth instrument, the vibraphone, and put it center stage in a popular genre that was influential not only in his time, but long after. And I have no doubt that his style will continue to influence music well into the future. Now, the vibraphone might be an unwieldy instrument to carry around, but when Roy Ayers was playing it, it could sing, it could swing, it could make you weep, it could make you smile, dance. He could use it to tell a story. He was truly someone who took the instrument to places that most people never imagined it could go. And I'm not talking about its size, I'm talking about the musicality. Now, the virtuosity of Roy Ayers was recognized at a very early time. He was part of the very important but sometimes under-discussed jazz music scene in South Central LA, and he started playing the music of his peers at the time in the 50s and 60s, the contemporary bebop and post-bop jazz that was so innovative and so, ahead of its time at that time. But by the late 60s, he started to carve out that much more of an individuated style, playing what some might call psychedelic jazz, jazz fusion, before in the early 70s he settled on a sort of stylistic direction that would really be his hallmark for the rest of his career. And this was sort of a jazz funk soul with a bit of pop fusion. Some call it acid jazz. I don't like the term, but it's the kind of music that jazz aficionados could appreciate because of the brilliant composition and the virtuosic playing, but people who liked funk, soul, disco, pop music, rock and roll even, they could groove to it. It was so appealing because not only was he a great player, but he was a wonderful composer. I mean, the list of songs that he's come out with that have just been hits both in their time, but incredibly influential after their time. Things like Everybody Loves the Sunshine, The Memory, Searching, so many Mystic Voyage, some of the great covers that he did. I mean, I think I said Everybody Loves the Sunshine, but Dolmio, Give It To Me, The Memory, what a wonderful song, Better Days. The list goes on, and they all have that sort of wonderful hit and hip material in them. Now, he continued to push things further by becoming not only the most famous vibist in the world, but a pioneer of the electric vibraphone, which he integrated into his records and live performances in the 80s and throughout the rest of his career. And he used it to do very interesting sounds. At some gigs, because it made touring easier, he would use it to emulate the sound of a regular vibraphone, but at other times, he would use it to create such interesting sounds and play with them in such interesting ways. And he was a great vocalist. And if you ever had the privilege to see him live, as I had several times, he was so entertaining. Even if you were living under a rock and had never heard of him, you would have been a fan by the time you got done with sitting in a Roy Ayers audience. And his pioneering credentials don't end there because hip hop loved Roy Ayers from the early days of sampling right up into a lot of contemporary underground hip hop artists. Everyone loves the Sunshine, and in hip hop, everyone loves Roy Ayers. I mean, it's no coincidence that one of the opening segments of the Straight Outta Compton docudrama, you see an image of the young Dr. Dre listening to a Roy Ayers LP. That was the groove that helped hip hop become what it is. A true maestro, a true pioneer, beloved by all, respected by all, genuinely popular across the world in his lifetime. And I have a feeling that even when some of his contemporaries start to get forgotten, everyone will remember Roy Ayers because the memory keeps calling me back. Rest in peace, one of the greatest.